The Foundry. Old, gray, and metal to the core.
Hey, welcome to the Brutally Delicious podcast, to a new series here with my friend Nick Edinger. This week, and in this new podcast, we are going to take 3 records, each episode, one from each of us, a metal record, and then one non-metal, and give you what we think of them. Our less than expert opinions, I assume. So hopefully you'll stick around. Nick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Nick Edinger, and I am the former vocalist for Possession and current vocalist for Frost Like Ashes, and just all-around metalhead. So,
well, anyway, I appreciate you agreeing to do this, and this is a really good year for metal, and I'm not sure if it's because of what we're going through or what we're coming out of or what, but there's some really good metal stuff to pick from, and I'm going to let you go ahead first. I know you've got one for us. What'd you pick for this episode?
Well, for today, I picked KKs Priest, their new album, and it is called Sermons of the Sinner. And, you know, it's funny that you led with the comment that you made of how great of a year it's been for metal. And when I was listening to this, and then also even when I flipped over to the one that you chose for today, both of these bands or artists have been a long time coming for the new albums. And I kind of felt like maybe this type of a season is like perfect for metal, you know? Conflict worldwide, and it just and maybe a little bit of a threat of imminent death or suffering or the chaos that's happening in the world right now. And I'm kind of wondering if that doesn't feed those of us that are metalheads and just helped get a few guys maybe off the sidelines that have been just kind of chilling and maybe not feeling a whole lot of inspiration. And so this album, I really feel is exactly that. And I was really happy that it came out, and not only that it's as good as it is.
It's phenomenal. Ahead. No, it's phenomenal. And I mean, KK is 70 now, or really close to 70. And putting out some of the best stuff or the best riffs of his life. I mean, this to me harkens back to classic Priest, right? Like late 70s, early 80s Priest, when they were at their top of their game. And he makes no bones about it. I mean, he's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's doing what he does. Yeah.
And you can't fault him for that, because he is the one that created the sound, right?
Right.
So it's his sound. Right. He can do with it as he pleases.
And I would never fault him, because I'm a fan since, the early days anyway. And, I do miss Halford here and there, but Ripper is, as you know, he was in Priest for a little bit, so he was an absolute perfect choice for this. And I don't think anybody else could have stepped in and done it.
No, not at all. Especially the not really the first 2 songs, because there's that intro song, but the next 2 songs after that, Hellfire, Thunderbolt, and Sermons of the Sinner. Those 2 felt to me like they were really classic Priest. They felt like going way back and listening to stuff from the 80s, you know. After that, it feels like they moved on to a more modern sound, and his Ripper's vocals changed more to his standard style from that point on. Not to say that they aren't great and incredibly strong vocals, but it just felt like he was more comfortable in those last songs than he was in the first 2.
So I'm going to tell you, if I'm picking a song off the record, I love them all, but that Raise Your Fist is super anthemic, and I think that's going to be the one, if we ever get to see live shows again, that's got all the Priest, all the big arena, let's sing along and tear the cushions out of your seats kind of thing. Plus, it's got, I think, the best solo on the record. He's crazy good on that one.
Yeah. For my top picks, it was Hellfire Thunderbolt and Sermons of the Sinner, just because they sound like what we would expect things to sound like. Brothers of the Road also was a great one. And it kind of fits in with the idea you have for, being a really great live song.
Right.
But my favorite song of the entire album, including the first two songs, is Metal Through and Through.
Yes.
I felt like that one really encompassed maybe what they are trying to do. And I hope that this isn't just a one-off thing. According to the website, the way they write the band bio, it's not a one-off. So I'm hoping that more come, and I hope that Metal Through and Through is the type of tracks that we get from here on out. So.
On a side note, I spoke to Ripper just recently about this record, and he said that they've got so much stuff in their back catalog, in their writing that didn't make it this record, that there is going to be another one should everything, carry on as it is right now. But I wanted to say Return of the Sentinel, I'm guessing, is a nod back to Defenders of the Faith with the Sentinel, which actually was my favorite song on that record. I don't know how it connects. Yep. I don't know how it really connects because it's not the same riff, but I thought it was pretty cool to a nod back to, when did Defenders of the Faith come out? Like 1984, 85-ish?
Right.
I thought that was a pretty good one as well.
Yeah, and it's a different type of song for the rest of the album, and it's 9 minutes long.
Yeah.
But it never gets dull. It never gets boring. That's the whole thing with this whole album. It's amazingly strong metal release, right? It's just pure metal, and it never slows down. It never gets boring. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, so those are my thoughts on it. Although the highlight for me is the bass playing.
Interesting.
The bass playing on this just keep everything moving. A lot of times drums keep things moving.
Right.
This one, the drums are they do what they need to do, but the bass is just unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that out because I've definitely heard it, but I don't know that I gave it that much attention. But I did want to say something though. As a musician and as someone who has written albums, it's pretty difficult to sustain a 9-minute song and keep people interested, right? So that's a feat in itself.
It is. You just have to. For me, if it's a longer song, it has to tell a story,
right?
And Maiden are brilliant at that.
Yes.
Right? And so I think that they nailed it on this one.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and add links to the other two songs that we were talking about in the YouTube link. So if you've made it this far in our conversation and you're interested, you can go check it out.
All right. So on to the next album that we chose, and you chose Carcass, Torn Arteries. Yeah, so why don't you talk us through that a little bit?
So I went real heavy on my pick this time, and I'm not always in the heavy realm. I like the the classic stuff as well, but Carcass fan through and through. Always liked them, but this one, Torn Arteries, these guys have been at it for, I want to say, darn near 30 years. So another band, like we're talking about in this same vein, that's been around for a long time. I think there's right. I think there's 7 years now since Surgical Steel. So, like you said, came off the couch with something to say, and sort of reinvented their sound a little bit. So we went from the really grindcore stuff of the early days to, I would say, almost like a melodic death metal or death metal sort of thing. You still get some of the grindcore in it, but these guys are they're innovators of the genre for sure. This record is phenomenal. Do you have a chance to listen to it?
Yeah, I listened to it several times. And I kind of agree with you. They have moved into, I would almost call it more polished style, but and I went back and listened to Surgical Steel just to kind of refresh myself after listening to this for a few times. And I think this is kind of going back a little less polished and a little dirtier than like Surgical Steel and Heartwork as an example.
Yeah, I think the guitars are
but it's still
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
It's still, it amazes me that how they can get the guitars and the vocals and even the feel of the songs to sound like them after all of these years and after such a long break.
Yeah. I mean, the guitar tones, you talked about them already, but they're so super saturated, but yet they still fit perfectly in the mix. I mean, you still got that bluesy, you still have those bluesy melodic runs. And you were talking about bass players on the first record. Jeff Walker's bass and voice on this one. I mean, I don't know how old these guys are. They're definitely around our age, probably been doing this a long time. He's, again, close to the top of his game.
Yeah, I felt like the vocals were, they were a little harsher maybe than the previous several albums.
Right.
You can really feel the growl in his voice, but at the same time, there were things that were not as intense as they were even on Heartwork. So it's kind of a new Carcass.
Yes,
but it's definitely the old Carcass. I don't know. It's not as heavy as Heartwork was to me.
No,
but still, like you were mentioning, their ability to be heavy and brutal and still beautiful all at the same time.
I think that's a great word.
Is unreal.
And I think if you're looking for the old grindcore style from the early days, you're not going to find it here. This leans more towards, at least for me, leans more towards a death metal record with some of those leanings, but it's just really good. I mean, I think you listen to the Priest record that we were talking about, and it's real anthemic and real, I don't know, just metal for metal's sake. This record, though, as with normal Carcass records, has definitely social political commentary woven into everything that they do. And I think the artwork being what it is so great because they've been lifelong vegans, and you get that whole bloody sort of analogy throughout the record, which is really kind of funny as well.
Yeah, it was, for me, it was a better album overall than Surgical Steel. And I'm just, I'm really, really happy that they came out with this quality of an album. What were your highlights of your songs?
So my highlights are definitely Kelly's Meat Emporium and The Devil Rides Out. Just such bangers all the way through. Yeah. And then probably if I had to pick a third one, I think the Scythe's Remorseless Swing was really good as well.
Yeah. Mine, Torn Arteries, of course, In God We Trust. Dance of, I don't know how to pronounce this word, Ixtab, I'm guessing.
Right.
Was a different song, but very, very enjoyable. But again, The Devil Rides Out was my favorite track on the whole album.
What a banger. And I think fans of any kind of extreme metal, definitely fans of Carcass, Cannibal Corpse, that kind of stuff, they're going to find value in this record. And I think it's a win for me.
Yeah, these guys show us how it's done.
All right, so for our non-metal selection of the week, I picked a band called Kills Birds. I know I'm probably not unique in this because it looks like Dave Grohl has been on the ahead of me here, and he picked them up as and did some recording with them back in this place, I found out. But according to the bio I read, or according to what I've listened to even, I'm going to categorize them as sort of like an indie punk American band. I don't know how else to explain them. Do you have a better way to explain them, Nick?
No, when I was writing my notes, the very first word I wrote was punk.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not like modern punk. It harkens back to like B-52s and Adam Ant to me. Like, I was really actually surprised to find they weren't from England. You know? Yeah,
that's a good point. And they're female. I hate to say female fronted, but the lead singer is a female. It's not necessarily. Right. I don't like the term female fronted, but yeah, the lead singer is a female, and she's got that B-52s or that sort of punky British attitude of the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, it has the punk attitude is a perfect description of it, because they have structured songs, but throughout the whole thing, it's like it's this fine balance of we just don't care, but we don't care really, really well. I don't know how else to
I think that's perfect, actually. We don't care, but we don't care really, really well.
Yeah, it's, when I listened to the first song and then I just closed my eyes and was just listening to the whole album, I honestly felt like I was going to open up my eyes and find myself sitting on a couch in a basement
in a house
with
show.
All these guys, yeah, not even a house show, like band practice. That's and they're just cranking it out and just slamming right in front of me. I mean, it feels that close and that real, and that's probably why it has that punk element to it.
Yeah, so it's got the raw element, and it's immediate and it's organic, and it's I mean it's very hook driven for sure, but it's definitely very emotional. I think her name is Natalie. Her vocals are super emotional and expressive.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, she's the thing that drives the band. She's fantastic. My highlights, Cough Up Cherries, of course. That's not the title track, but it is, I don't know if it's the first single, but it's one of them.
Right.
Very, very, very strong 80s British punk vibe from that one. But you know what? Woman is a fantastic punk song. It is short and it's to the point. PTL is amazing as well. But my number one pick is Natalie, that song.
Right.
I feel like that really exemplifies that band.
I think they were great.
I did find it strange that their title track was Married, because that is the one song, the recording doesn't sound the same. It doesn't sound anything like anything else on the album. And I kind of feel like if you go and listen to that song, you're not going to get a sense of what this band sounds like, or really the best of what this band sounds like. It's a great original sounding punk album. You're not going to get bored at all. And, the other thing you can do is crank it in your car and roll down all the windows.
Yes.
And drive through the city at night. Oh, man.
I think you're right. I think this is a great record for that. And I think if you're looking for something outside of the normal metal realm, I mean, I know punk is not that different, but it's different enough where I think it made this our little show here. And I think this is a good record to go ahead and pick up.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.